Hello, I'm Rebecca and welcome to MHA Active. Today we're going to be having a look at some different festive Christmas crafts that we can do together, and we're going to also be talking throughout all of the different videos about the benefits. These videos are great for well-being, for mindfulness, for getting out into nature, and for just taking a little bit of time to yourself to get lost within an activity and a craft. So today I'm going to show you how to make a festive Christmas wreath. We've got all of the spruce here and we're going to go through how to moss the ring itself and provide a really good base for the spruce to keep it fresh throughout the festive season. We're then going to spruce it up and then decorate as well, which is the best bit. So I'm going to start by popping some real wire around the outer edge of the ring itself. So all of the items that we're going to be using today, I've tried to make it as accessible as possible. So you will be able to get these from local crafts stores. You can also get them from bigger stores as well on the run up to Christmas. It's also very therapeutic, and it's a really, really nice thing to do in terms of going out and foraging, going and getting those pieces that you can then put in your own festive wreath or Christmas table centrepiece, which we'll also be doing as well. We've got some moss here that we're going to pop around the ring to base it all up. Moss like this you can get from your local florist, and also, providing it's okay with the person that owns the land, you are also able to go out and forage it, get it off the walls, and you can get some really nice tactile bits as well. So you want to start by taking the bits of the moss, and we want to make it into a bit of a sausage shape. We're then going to place it onto the ring where we've got your wire, and we're going to go underneath and back out the other side, underneath and back out. You want to have quite a nice amount of tension on there, because we don't want it to be that it's going to be moving around anywhere, and we want it to be that it's quite a sturdy base for the wreath. This bit can be quite messy, but it's also a nice little activity. And it smells very, very festive as well. So just keep pulling at the moss and keep making it into those sausage shapes. So the moss being on the wreath ring itself is going to provide a really nice amount of moisture, which is going to keep all of your spruce really, really fresh and crisp throughout the festive season. Tiny little bit more. You will also find that there's twigs, and sometimes you get some little bugs as well in the moss, but that's okay. We just pop them outside and they can go on their merry little way. Okay, so we're then going to pop the wreath onto its face so that you've got the back side that you can see, and we're going to snip the wire. You want to leave a good couple of inches, and we're then going to pop the end of the wire through underneath the ring itself and give it a good pull. And if you go around underneath a couple of times just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And then once you've done that with the little bit of the end of the wire, bend it back on itself and just pop it into the moss, just so it makes sure that it's not going to scratch your door or anything else that it's up against. And then pop it back onto its face, and there we go. So that's the basis of what we are going to work upon in terms of then starting to pop all of our spruce on to make it a beautiful festive wreath. So I know I've just told you to tie it all off on the back, and that is what we need to do, and that's in case of if we get a little bit further and we've started putting the spruce onto the wreath itself, and then we have a little bit of a problem along the way. It's just to ensure that the whole thing's not going to come to pieces. So you want to pop it back onto its face again, and we're going to reattach with the wire in exactly the same way as what we did the first time. And again, just pop that little end back on itself and into the moss, and then turn it over onto its face. So we're now going to start taking our bits of spruce, and you want to be starting to make like little bundles. So I normally go in 3s. So something similar to that amount of a bundle in a bundle is absolutely perfect. And then we're then going to pop it onto an angle so that the base of it, the bottom, is pointing into the centre of the wreath, and then with our wire we're going to start going round into the middle, and I normally go around 2 or 3 times. Again, you want it to have a nice bit of tension to it because we want it to be that it keeps all of the spruce really secure, but it doesn't have to be where you're really sort of pulling on it and it's starting to make your hands ache. So if you've got pieces like this, we can cut this down. This is a little bit long, but then it makes it into two nice pieces. You want it to be that you've got a really nice sort of fullness to the wreath as well. There's nothing worse than a really flat looking wreath because it just looks a little bit sorry for itself. So keep on going. And with any little bits as well, tiny little bits like this, don't discard them. They are just as important because these are the bits that can cover in on the inside of the circle, and just make sure that you've got a really nice full wreath and you've not just got all of the spruce on the outside. So you can see there that we're getting a really nice fullness look into the wreath. And then we pop our last bit on here, so we've come quite literally full circle. And make sure that this last one is a really nice, good, tight one. I'm just going to pop a tiny little bit more on. Okay, so when we've completely covered our wreath all the way around with our spruce, we're then going to pop it back onto its face again, as we did before. You then want to cut the wire, again the same as what we did with the moss, so just give it a good couple of inches, and then pop it back through underneath the copper ring again and give it a nice pull. Make sure it's nice and tight. So this is just going to stop the whole thing from coming to pieces. So it's a pretty crucial bit. You want to make sure that it's a good amount of tension on there. And then fold it back over and pop it back into the moss. There we go. Okay, so now we've done our full base, we're going to just give the wreath a little bit of a zhuzh around and just make sure that it's got a nice amount of fullness and that it's sort of sitting as you want it to. So any bits that you've got where you can sort of see into the centre of the wreath and there looks like there's a little gap, I've got one just around there, just pull the spruce down and it'll easily cover it. We are going to now put some foliage on as well, so it will just fill out even more. But we've got a nice shape going on there as well. So we're then going to start by taking our eucalyptus. We've got lots of different textures and lots of different foliages. Again, if there's something that you've got in your garden or if there's any foliage that you're wanting to go and find in terms of in the fields, that's something that I often do. Again, probably get the permission from the farmer if you live locally to something where you need to go and start snipping at trees and bushes, but they're generally absolutely fine with it. So we're going to take our eucalyptus, and again, the eucalyptus is something that you're able to get from your local florist or supermarket as well. A lot of them have started now just doing bundles of eucalyptus. So we're going to cut at each little pit. I'm just going to move my wreath a sec. So you want to cut pieces off of around that kind of length and cut each of the stems off. Okay, so we're now going to take our wires and we're going to wire each individual piece of the foliage. So you want pieces that are around that kind of length is absolutely fine, but if you want to go a little bit shorter, then that's also great. We don't want it to be that you've got them that they're too long. If they're a really, really long piece of the foliage, then it's just going to stick out at a bit of a strange angle and we don't want that. So I'm going to go with the two different variations. And again, if we go in sort of clusters of 3, you then want to pop the foliage into the palm of your hand and make sure that you've got the stem sticking out. Put your wire underneath your thumb and then pull both legs down and start wrapping the slightly longer one around the shorter one, including the stem as well. So we're going to continue the process until we've wired all of the eucalyptus. Don't worry if your stems don't look overly pretty and neat, it doesn't matter, they will be hidden. Okay, now that we've wired all of our pieces of eucalyptus, we're now going to start by popping them back into the wreath itself. So you want to go in the same, I've gone clockwise, so we still want to continue to go with the foliage being clockwise. We don't want to start going in the opposite direction. So you're going to take the wire stem and we're going to push it through into the moss base, and it will then pop out the other side. You should be able to just feel it come out on the other side. Bend it back over on itself, again just so that it's not going to be scratching the door, and then just push it into the moss. So continue in the same manner all the way around the wreath. The eucalyptus smells beautiful as well, and once it's on your door, some people also hang them in the house as well, and if that's something you want to do, you'll be able to have a really nice fragrance coming through. So keep pushing through onto the back. And then I've just got one extra piece, so I'm just going to pop it here. I just feel like I've got a little bit of an empty space up here. So keep standing back and having a look at the wreath as well, and keep sort of assessing how you think it's looking. So the wreath is your creation. Ultimately, it needs to be something that you are happy with. And when you're doing something that is creative, I very much feel that it should be something that you love, and you look at it with pride as well. So if there's any elements of it that you're not quite happy with, they can be tweaked and they can just be snipped out. I'm showing you how to do it from a floristry point of view, but ultimately you have got to love your end piece. So we're now going to move on to starting to put the decorations onto our wreath itself. You can choose whatever you like. We've got some dried oranges, we've got some pine cones. Again, these are pieces, not the dried orange, but these are pieces, the pine cones, if you're going out for a walk, these are pieces that you can pick up. And again, it's so lovely to just go on a really mindful walk, go and find some pieces. You can find some ivy. Ivy's brilliant in a Christmas wreath. Pine cones, different berries. There's all sorts out there that we can go while we're having a walk and just have a moment, breathe in the air, and just take a pair of scissors with you and go and have a little cut at different bits and bobs and see what you can find that's already fallen onto the floor as well. Acorns as well are brilliant. Yeah, there's all sorts of things out there. We've also got some dried hydrangeas as well. Now these are from my garden, and I just bring them inside after I've given them a little snip. Once they start dying back a little bit, give them a little snip, hang them upside down in a dry, ventilated space, and they'll dry out really nicely. They've just started to get that little bit of crunch to them, and as you can see, they're holding the colour really nicely as well, so they'll be beautiful once we put these in. So that's the basis of what we're going to put into our wreath. It doesn't have to be that it's absolutely cram-packed. I personally like my wreaths to be very, very full. However, again, it is your wreath, and we want it to be that you love the end piece, you love the product that you've made, and it's about the enjoyment as well. So I'm going to start by taking my hydrangeas, and we're going to just give them a little cut. Again, a good couple of inches. And we're going to take our wire again. And the same way in terms of how we wired the eucalyptus. So pull the legs down of the wire and then wrap one around the stem and the other leg of the wire. If you want to, you don't have to wire these. It's just personal preference. I prefer to wire them so that they've got a good amount of stability to them in case we have any bad weather. We know that they're not going to be falling out of your wreath. Okay, so now we've got all of those wired, I'm going to start by popping them in. I've got 5 because in floristry we always work with odd numbers. So I'm going to, if you think of your wreath as like a clock face, so we normally put things at alternate numbers. I'm going to put one at 1 o'clock. And then I'm going to put a slightly smaller one at around 4 or 5 o'clock. Obviously you don't have to look at your wreath like it's a clock if you don't want to. It just helps me in terms of balancing everything out. Another one at about 7. One just there at approximately 10. And then the last one just up at the top. And the reason that we go in the odd numbers again is because, as you can see, if we'd have just left the 4 in there, it would have looked it would have been a very square shape. So we pop the 5 in. I'm now going to move on to putting the pine cones in. So you take a piece of wire and you want to just pop it down to the spine of the pine cone itself. Pull it round the other side and then give it a twist. And again, we're going to go in with the same kind of concept. You want to go in between the hydrangeas that we've just popped in. I always find it helpful as well if you hold the bottom of the wire and hold it a little bit like a pen. It's just so that you've got much more dexterity in terms of being able to push it in through the moss. Because now that our wreath's starting to get quite full, it can be a little bit tricky on some of the elements to push them through. So on the back through here, what I'm doing is once they've gone through, I'm just popping them the other way around and just sticking it back into the moss again so that we've got that nice smooth base on the bottom. So if you pop one hand underneath the wreath as well, you can generally just feel the wire just poking through the other side, so it gives you a little bit of direction in terms of where it's coming. So again, I'm going with an odd number, so I've got 5 pine cones that I'm putting in. And while you're making the wreath as well and you're starting to put the decorations on, you also want to be having a little bit of a look in terms of where you're going to put a bow. If you want to put a bow on, of course, you don't have to at all, but I love a big bow and I love really long tails as well, so we will be putting those on. So we're now going to move on to the oranges. So again, these are things that you can get from, on the run up to Christmas, you can get them from local craft stores, and you can also get them from bigger independent stores as well. So you can either wire them individually, by popping the wire straight through the actual segment itself and pulling those legs down, and then wrap one around the other. So it's nice and secure like that. Or you can pop a couple together, so again, go with the 3 so that you've got a nice little bundle of them. And of course your wreath can be whatever colours that you like, whatever colour combination. I really enjoy putting things on my wreath that are very natural products, so I don't put a lot of plastics in there, and I don't put a lot of sort of, not a massive amount of baubles, but of course we are going to put 1 or 2 in there just so it's got a little bit of glitz to it, because it is Christmas after all. So I'm just going to do the 3 oranges, the 3 clusters of the oranges. I don't want it to be that it's a really sort of intense in terms of the colour. So I'm going to pop 1 just over there, 1 up at the top, and 1 over to the other side, just to balance it out. So I've also got some nice red berries as well. I'm going to pop those through. I have already wired these. So in terms of the way that we would do this, you pop the wire by the side of the stem itself. So just lay it flat, and then we get some floristry tape and we tape it all the way down. So you twist and pull, twist and pull, twist and pull. So the tape itself isn't sticky, it's by pulling it and stretching it that it actually adheres to itself. You can also get berries and picks that they're already ready wired, so you don't need to worry about doing that so much. So I've got 3 of these. So exactly the same process again. And then I am going to take just a few little baubles just to pop on there, just to brighten it a little bit. And as I say, it is Christmas, so it wouldn't really be right if we didn't have a little bit of glitter in there. So I'm going to pop 1 up near the top. Again, some of these are ready wired and others I've had to wire myself. So remember that we've got the full space of the wreath to cover as well. We don't just want it to be that we're putting everything just on the top. So some bits I am going to pull out so that they're on that outer edge. So these little polystyrene balls, I'm just going to push the wire in, and just when you feel that there's a little bit of resistance, just stop. We don't want it coming back out the other side. Like I've just done. Twice. There we go. So to finish our wreath off, I'm going to pop a nice bow on there. I am going to, obviously you can go with whatever colour you want. There's so many different variations out there in terms of colours as well. So I'm just going to pop some ribbon on the bottom and I'll show you how to make a bow. So I've got some ivory ribbon as well. So we are going to take a good, you want quite a good amount, quite a good length. Give it a cut with the sharpest scissors that you can find. And we're going to make a bow. Okay, so you want to fold your ribbon in half, and once you've found the centre, we're going to fold it across the front, so a little bit like the breast cancer bow. And then we're going to take the other side and do exactly the same. So we want it to look like you've got a pair of bunny ears, and then with the piece that you've got to the right, we're then going to go underneath and pincer it back between your finger and your thumb, and then take that over the top and send it back down in the same direction again. It is quite tricky and it does take a lot of practice. Okay, just going to take a piece of wire and we're going to scrunch it together, just concertina the ribbon, pop that ribbon underneath your thumb again and pull those wires down and wrap one round the other. There we go. So I'm going to pop this at the bottom of my wreath. So if you get it into place, and then you can have a little bit of a titivate with it all. Okay, and make sure that the ribbon lengths are the same. Just tidy those ends up. So we now are going to attach a hook in terms of being able to hang the wreath. So if you lift your wreath up, and we want to look at the back of it. So I've got 2 wires here because we want this to be really tight and really secure. So pop it just underneath the copper ring that we've got. Push it through till you've got about an equal sort of amount on both sides. Pull them up and then just wrap one around the other, but make sure that you're leaving a hole there. To make sure you can still pop your fingers through there. Keep twisting. And then bend it back on itself. And if you give it a pull, you've then got your hook. And there you have your Christmas wreath. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.